Somewhere in your bathroom cabinet, or sitting in your purse, or on your nightstand right now, there is a combination of pills that your body was never designed to handle at the same time. Not a poison someone put there on purpose, just an over-the-counter bottle next to a prescription bottle, both perfectly legal, both perfectly common, and together, quietly working against you. I want you to think about that for a second. Not a rare disease, not a dramatic diagnosis, just two ordinary bottles sitting 3 inches apart on a shelf. I used to think medication mistakes, but it looked like confusion, taking the wrong pill on the wrong day. But after years behind the pharmacy counter, I learned the truth is much quieter than that. The most dangerous mistakes are the ones that look completely reasonable, the ones nobody warns you about, because on paper, nothing about them. Watching what happens when ordinary medications meet a body that has crossed 60. And here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. Your body after 60 processes medications differently than it did at 40. Not worse, just different. The kidneys filter more slowly, the liver breaks things down at a different pace. And medications that used to pass through without a trace can now quietly linger, stack, and interact in ways most people never see coming until something finally goes wrong. Today, I am going to walk you through 5 mistakes I see in my practice every single week. Ordinary mistakes, the kind almost every senior makes without ever knowing it. And by the end, you are going to know exactly what to ask your pharmacist the next time you stand at that counter, so this stops being something that happens quietly to you. Here is what you are going to walk away with today. You will understand why the medicine cabinet is often more dangerous than the illness it is meant to treat. You will learn the over-the-counter combination that quietly raises blood pressure in people who are already being treated for it. You will learn why doubling up on a common sleep aid does something to the aging brain that most people never expect. You will learn the supplement conversation almost nobody has with their doctor, and why that silence matters more than people think. And you will leave with one simple question you can ask at your very next pharmacy visit that could change everything. Mistake number 1, mixing over-the-counter pain relievers with the blood pressure medication. This is the one I see most often, and it is almost never intentional. Someone is managing their blood pressure carefully, taking their prescription every morning like clockwork. Then their knee starts aching, or their back flares up, and they reach for an ordinary anti-inflammatory pain reliever from the drugstore shelf. It feels harmless. It is sold without a prescription. Most people assume that means it is safe to combine with but here is what most seniors do not realize. Common anti-inflammatory pain relievers can cause the body to retain sodium and fluid, and they can narrow certain blood vessels. For someone already on blood pressure medication, that combination can quietly work against the very treatment they are relying on every single day. The research consistently suggests that regular use of these pain relievers in older adults is associated with higher blood pressure readings and, over time, added strain on the kidneys. It rarely happens all at once. It happens quietly, week after week, bottle after bottle, until a routine checkup shows numbers that do not make sense to anyone at first. And here is the part that makes this mistake so easy to fall into. The pain reliever and the blood pressure prescription are usually managed by 2 completely different parts of a person's routine. One comes from the pharmacy counter with a printed label and clear instructions. The other comes from a shelf at the grocery store, tossed into a cart without a second thought. Nobody is checking whether those 2 things belong in the same body at the same time, because nobody thinks of them as related at all. Let me walk you through an illustrative scenario. This is a composite of patterns I have seen many times. Not one specific patient. Let us call her Margaret, 68, a retired school teacher. Margaret had her blood pressure well managed for years. Then arthritis in her hands got worse, and she started taking an over-the-counter pain reliever most mornings, right alongside her blood pressure prescription. 6 months later, her numbers had crept up, and neither Margaret nor her doctor immediately connected it to the pain reliever sitting quietly in her bathroom cabinet. It took a full medication review, every bottle laid out on the counter, before the pattern became obvious. That is exactly why this mistake is so easy to make. Nothing about it feels wrong in the moment. Now, before we move to the next one, I want you to picture your own bathroom cabinet for a moment. Is there a pain reliever bottle sitting near your blood pressure medication right now? Keep that in mind, because mistake number 2 is just as common, and it involves something almost every household has sitting in more than one room. Mistake number 2, doubling up on antihistamines for sleep. A huge number of over-the-counter sleep aids use the exact same active ingredient as allergy medication. People take one for allergies during the day and then without realizing it, take a nighttime sleep formula that contains the very same compound to help you. On the surface, that looks like two different products solving two different problems. In reality, it can mean taking a double dose of the same ingredient without ever intending to. Here is why that matters more as we age. This particular class of ingredient affects a chemical messenger in the brain that becomes more sensitive with time. In a younger body, the effect is usually mild grogginess that clears by mid-morning. In an older body, research has linked frequent or high-dose use of this ingredient to next-day confusion, unsteady balance, and a meaningfully higher risk of falls. And falls, as most seniors already know, are one of the most serious threats to independence after 60, often changing far more than the injury itself. Let me walk you through another illustrative scenario. Richard, 72, retired mechanic, composite patient. Richard took an allergy tablet most mornings during pollen season and a nighttime sleep aid most evenings because his sleep had been getting lighter over the past year. Both were purchased. Separately, both felt completely routine, and both sat in different corners of his medicine cabinet without ever being thought of as the same ingredient. What Richard did not realize, and what his pharmacist eventually flagged during a routine consultation, was that he was effectively doubling the same compound every single day. Once that was corrected, his morning grogginess and unsteadiness improved noticeably within a matter of weeks. Mistake number 3, not telling your pharmacist or doctor about supplements. This is the conversation almost nobody has, and it is the one that quietly worries me the most. Most seniors think of their supplements as separate from medication, vitamins, herbal capsules, fish oil, something purchased at a health store rather than a pharmacy counter. Because of that, many people never mention them during a medical visit at all, not out of secrecy, but simply because it never occurs to them that it matters. But supplements are not neutral. Certain common herbal supplements can interfere with blood thinners, heart medications, and antidepressants in ways that are well documented in the research. A supplement that seems gentle and natural can still change how a prescription medication behaves in your bloodstream, sometimes making it stronger than intended, sometimes making it weaker than intended. And because most people never disclose what they are taking, this interaction often goes unnoticed until something goes wrong, and by then it can be difficult to trace it back to the actual cause. Coming up, I am going to walk you through the 2 mistakes I consider the most serious of all, including one that involves something sitting in almost every kitchen refrigerator in the country. Before we get there, I want you to notice something. Every mistake so far has one thing in common. Each product, on its own, is completely safe. It is only the combination, quietly assembled one purchase at a time, that creates the risk. Hold on to that thought, because it becomes even more important in the mistakes ahead. Mistake number 4, splitting or crushing pills that were never designed to be split. This one surprises people every time I explain it. Many medications, particularly extended-release formulations, are engineered with a special coating or internal structure that releases the medication slowly over many hours. When that pill is cut in half or crushed into food or a drink, that slow release mechanism can be destroyed in an instant. Instead of a steady, controlled dose spread evenly across the day, the entire dose can be released all at once, hitting the body far faster than it was ever meant to. For some medications, that sudden release is simply uncomfortable. For others, particularly certain heart and blood pressure medications, it can be genuinely dangerous, causing blood pressure or heart rate to shift far more sharply than intended. And the frustrating part is that pill splitting almost always starts for a completely reasonable reason. Someone trying to make a large tablet easier to swallow, or trying to stretch the prescription a little further to save money at the end of the month. Illustrative scenario, Thomas, 75, retired postal worker. Thomas had difficulty swallowing larger tablets, so he began crushing his heart medication into his morning oatmeal without realizing it was an extended-release formula. It took a pharmacy consultation and a conversation he almost did not think to have to catch it and switch him to a formulation that was actually safe. To take differently. If you have ever cut a pill in half because it felt too big to swallow whole, you are not alone. And you are not careless. Almost everyone I have counseled has done it at least once. What matters now is knowing which pills allow it and which pills do not. And that is a 30-second question your pharmacist can answer every single time. Now, mistake number 5, the one most people have never even heard of. And it hides in an ordinary kitchen staple: grapefruit and grapefruit juice. I know how that sounds. A piece of fruit does not feel like it belongs on a list about dangerous medication mistakes. But grapefruit contains natural compounds that block a specific enzyme in the digestive system, an enzyme that is normally responsible for breaking down a wide range of common medications, including certain cholesterol medications and certain blood pressure medications. When that enzyme is blocked, those medications are not broken down properly, and far more of the medication than intended can enter the bloodstream. The research consistently suggests that this interaction can meaningfully increase the concentration of certain medications in the body, sometimes for a full day, or longer after a single glass of juice, long after breakfast is finished and forgotten. This is not a theoretical risk. It has been studied for decades, and it remains one of the most under-recognized interactions in senior health today, in part because grapefruit feels like the healthiest thing around on the table. Illustrative scenario, Dorothy, 69, retired librarian. Dorothy had grapefruit juice with breakfast most mornings out of habit, alongside a cholesterol medication she had taken for years without issue. When she began experiencing unusual muscle soreness that she assumed was simply part of getting older, it took a careful medication review and a specific question about her breakfast routine to identify the grapefruit juice as the quiet variable that had been amplifying her medication all along. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here is what I would tell you if you were standing at my counter right now. First, bring every single bottle in your house to your next pharmacy visit, prescription, and over-the-counter, including anything you consider a vitamin or a supplement, even the ones you have taken for years without a second thought. Second, ask your pharmacist directly, is there anything in this combination that could be working against something else I am taking? Third, before adding any new over-the-counter product, even something as ordinary as a pain reliever or a sleep aid, ask whether it is safe alongside what you already take. And fourth, if you might or someone you love regularly drinks grapefruit juice or eats grapefruit, mention it out loud during your next medication review. Most people never think to say it, and most providers never think to ask, simply because it does not look like part of the conversation. None of these mistakes make you anyone careless or foolish. They happen because these products are sold separately, marketed separately, and taken separately, even though inside your body they do not act separately at all. That is the gap this video exists to close. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had explained to you years ago, I put together a simple, plain language medication safety guide that walks through exactly what to ask at your next pharmacy. Visit, and it is linked right below this video. It costs you nothing, and it takes about 5 minutes to read. I built it because I got tired of watching these same 5 mistakes happen to people who simply were never told what to look for. And if this video helped you see your own medicine cabinet a little differently, share it with someone you love who takes more than one medication every day. That was one share might be the reason they ask the right question at their next appointment, instead of finding out the hard way. You now know something most people your age were never told. Not because anyone was hiding it from you, but because doctors rarely have the time in a 12-minute appointment to walk through every bottle on your shelf. That is exactly the gap I try to fill here, as an AI-assisted educational resource built to give you the kind of counter conversation most people never get time for. Talk to your pharmacist about every medication and supplement you take, together, not one at a time. That single conversation is often the most powerful thing you can do for your own safety this year. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.